At that moment, a desolate expanse of snowy fields suddenly transformed into a deadly arena. In circulating video footage, Russian forces launched what was described as a banzai charge, a reckless frontal charge, across open terrain with 3 light combat vehicles speeding toward the positions of the 110th Mechanized Brigade of the Ukrainian Armed Forces. The 3 vehicles, civilian vehicles modified for combat use, speeded, carrying Russian infantry, hoping that speed and surprise would allow them to penetrate Ukrainian lines. But from the air, that illusion was quickly shattered, as a Ukrainian UAV operator struck one of the vehicles in the middle of the open field. Under full aerial surveillance, the Russian convoy tore through the vast white field, leaving dark tire tracks that contrasted sharply with the snow. However, the swift attack soon turned into a nightmare, as the Ukrainian positions, which had prepared a multi-layered defense, responded with deadly precision. One by one, the Russian vehicles were struck in the middle of the field, stopped before they could reach the Ukrainian defense lines. Explosions shattered the silence, metal shrapnel and snow flying, forcing the Russian invaders to abandon their crippled vehicles. Trapped in the open, without cover, they were forced to scatter, desperately seeking shelter in terrain that offered little more than snow and emptiness. In this footage, this is where the most brutal phase of the battle begins, with Ukrainian UAV operators taking control of the battlefield, reconnaissance and attack drones locking onto every movement. From above, footage showed how the scattered Russian forces were systematically tracked. Every attempt to run, every attempt to hide, immediately detected from the air. One by one, the targets were struck with cold precision. But there was no panic on the Ukrainian side, only coordinated tactical execution. The Russian troops, who had previously charged with complete confidence, now fell one by one, obliterated as they tried to escape in the unforgiving open field. The banzai attack, intended to suppress and break through the Ukrainian defenses, instead proved the utter failure of frontal tactics on the modern battlefield. Ukraine's 110th Mechanized Brigade once again demonstrated its dominance in joint warfare, combining solid ground defense with UAV superiority, transforming open terrain into a death zone. The Snowfields were silent once again, but the trail of destruction left behind was a silent testament. Reckless courage and unprotected attacks under drone-controlled skies were merely invitations to destruction. On the same day, UAV operators of the Unmanned Systems Battalion of the 92nd Assault Brigade, named after Kosh Ataman Ivan Sirko, showed a selection of defeats of enemy personnel and equipment. Warriors of the 92nd Assault Brigade Ivan Sirko continued to destroy Russian occupiers on Ukrainian soil. A video of the combat work of the brigade's Unmanned Systems Battalion was published on Saturday, December 20th, on the official account of the 92nd Assault Brigade on Instagram. One of the occupiers decided to rest next to his own motorcycle, and thus helped Ukrainian pilots use just one drone to defeat both a soldier and a vehicle. The work to eliminate the enemy continues 24/7. Ukrainian land is burning under the feet of the Russian occupiers, the 92nd Assault Brigade commented on the video. The defense forces of Ukraine destroyed a mass accumulation of armored vehicles of the Russian occupation forces near Pokrovsk. The enemy planned to use them in assault operations in the Pokrovsk direction. The UAV pilots, the Steel Border Ukrainian Brigade, also used Vampire and FPV drones to strike enemy positions, destroying 4 shelters and a vehicle. Ukrainian border guard units from the Steel Border Brigade have carried out a successful drone strike operation against Russian positions on the Kursk axis. Using Vampire Strike UAVs and FPV drones, Ukrainian operators targeted enemy shelters, equipment, and weapons, inflicting confirmed losses. According to operational reports, drone crews destroyed 4 Russian field shelters and 1 vehicle during the engagement. The strikes were conducted with precision, focusing on fortified positions used by Russian forces to conceal personnel and equipment near the front line. At the same time, in addition to striking static targets, Ukrainian operators identified Russian drone launch site. The position was promptly engaged, with Ukrainian FPV drones hitting enemy UAVs directly, disrupting Russian reconnaissance and strike capabilities in the area. Follow-up aerial reconnaissance enabled Ukrainian pilots to locate Russian ammunition depot. The cache was subsequently struck by drones, resulting in a secondary detonation that indicated the destruction of stored munitions. As previously reported, Ukraine's Air Force has released footage showing combat operations during a large-scale Russian nighttime air attack against Ukraine. The strike took place overnight on December 27th, beginning at 1800 hours on December 26th, and targeted critical infrastructure using a combination of drones and missiles launched from air, sea, and ground platforms. All this time, the Russians are facing non-stop military losses on Ukrainian soil. About 1,203,310 aggressors' troops were eliminated. 100,427 air targets of invaders were shot down. Thousands of tanks, armored vehicles, and trucks were destroyed by the defenders of Ukraine. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine has published a new summary of total combat losses of the enemy from 24th of February 2022 to 27th of December 2025. More than 400,000 Russian soldiers are estimated to have been killed or wounded in 2025, according to a British Defense Intelligence update on Ukraine. In October 2025, Defense Intelligence put the overall number of Russian casualties throughout the full-scale war at 1,118,000. Higher than the entire size of its army before the full-scale invasion. Russia has thrown men into meat grinder assaults to seize land in eastern Ukraine inch by inch. The casualty rate has been particularly high in this year's effort to take the key hub of Pokrovsk, which has still not entirely fallen. This month, The Economist estimated that Russia could have lost 1% of its pre-war male population of fighting age in Ukraine since fighting broke out. Russia has kept specific figures of its military losses closely guarded. By summer 2025, they were thought to be around 15 times greater than those sustained in the Soviet Union's decade-long war in Afghanistan. Moscow was accused of using inflated financial incentives, including one-time signing-on bonuses, which can amount to several times the average annual salary, to draw men from poorer regions and republics to sign on as contract soldiers in order to distance the war from